I've wanted to do this video for quite a while now and I just have not had time because it's been so busy, but I finally had a moment to sit down today and do a little video about something that I've wanted to talk about for quite a while. Today I wanted to do my top 5 philosophies to live by that I use when raising my boys. Ways of living and raising the boys and bringing them up, and I just thought I'd share them with you today. So I guess what I wanted to talk about was gender roles, sexuality, identity, and my experience as a woman and as a mother raising 2 boys in this world. So I guess firstly I just wanted to say, if we want our kids to see all of the wonder and magic and love and pain and beauty in the world, doesn't that mean that we shouldn't be defining their experiences through gender? So what I mean by this is that when you're a boy, as soon as you're a boy, you are defined by that gender in terms of your external appearance and the way that you were raised, the media that you're exposed to, the words that are used around you because of your gender. And I guess that's been a really interesting kind of experience for me in terms of raising a boy, whole spectrum of human emotion, whether you're a boy or a girl. So number 1 is don't hide your period or your body hair. I feel as a mum that I am really trying to bring my boys up with an awareness of womanhood and manhood and how, you know, the intersections of masculinity and femininity kind of meet in the middle of this beautiful awareness that people can have and that children can have, but you know, you obviously have an age appropriate way of exploring these new things with children. So body hair is a normal part of every human body, but the world that we have been brought up in and the way that beauty and femininity has been defined within our culture is to generally shave your body hair if you're a woman. So I do that for my own personal reasons. It's mainly for comfort and I just prefer it. But when I do get hair on my legs through winter, or if I'm lazy or if I'm busy or whatever, you know, I don't hide that, and I think there is a bit of a stigma of shame if you are not following those normative kind of frameworks of what it means to be a woman and you have a bit of hair somewhere. So I'm very open with my boys. If I've got hairy legs, I just say, well, everyone's got hair and that's just a part of my body, just like it's a part of your body. And also your period. It's really interesting within kind of the Western Australian culture. Your period is something that still to this day, which I find really interesting, is hidden away. You know, you don't want to talk about it. It's a bit, you know, gross, or it's a bit, people think that it's, you know, oh, don't talk to her, she's got her period. Periods are normal, people. I think that still some adults don't like to talk about their period within our culture, whereas in other cultures around the world your period is actually celebrated and a part of womanhood, and it's empowering. And I want to bring my boys up kind of in knowing what a period is and knowing that it's a part of being a woman, and it's actually a beautiful part of being a woman. And I think that conversation is really important to have early on. I remember the first time Harper came into the bathroom when I was changing a pad, and he looked terrified because there was all this blood and he didn't understand why. So instead of shutting that opportunity for a conversation off, I just figured out a way to age appropriately kind of start that conversation around, you know, what a period is and that it's a very normal part of being a woman, and you know, I think it's something that should be embraced. And when I get my period, I really try to listen to my body and slow down and respect the process, and embrace it and embrace that side of my womanhood, and that's something that I'm very open with the boys, and I think it's really important. Number 2 is be naked. So we're a pretty naked family, and my main reasoning behind this is to, 1, normalize nakedness, also normalize all different kinds of bodies, because well, obviously they're only seeing my body, but my body is quite different, just like everyone is. Everyone's body is quite different. If you pay attention to kind of the cartoons that children watch, the females in the shows are pretty unrealistically portrayed in terms of what women can look like. There's not much variance. I think only in more recent years there's started to be some more expression of what a woman looks like, you know, in all different shapes and sizes. There's been some more characters portrayed and depicted in popular children's films and cartoons and TV shows that are a bit more realistically portrayed, you know, with some curves. But right from very little, the images that my boys are seeing, there's no connection with reality really. I think, you know, out in the real world, bodies look different. They look bumpy and they look squishy and they look squelchy. There's bits that are droopy and bits that are hangy, and as they get older, also in mainstream media, you know, whether that be news, reality TV, documentaries, movies, film, there is definitely a specific kind of look that a woman has to have in order to some degree be successful, and that is absolutely changing over time. There's a lot of movement happening, I think, within our culture, and in terms of women and men no longer accepting what has been the normative kind of role setting for a woman in all of these media mainstream frameworks, which is very exciting. So I think it's all about that undercurrent of redefining what beauty means to us and what it means to be a woman, and what it means for a man to understand what a woman looks like, you know. The other reason is that I guess we really try to empower our boys through nakedness. So I think within our culture there is such a strong connection between nakedness and sexuality, and then, you know, as another branch from that, nakedness, which is connected to you know, a monogamous relationship, monogamous long-term intimate relationship, and that's kind of the pathway that we take in our story, in our narrative. Historically, I mean, if you look at nakedness, that's how it's kind of developed over time. I think it's really important for me to kind of disconnect that. Bodies are beautiful, and they're not just naked when they're being sexual or they're being intimate with another person. So we're really trying to empower them through their bodies, you know, and understanding that nakedness is a beautiful thing, and there's no shame attached to it. You know, our body is a part of who we are. It's the vessel in which, you know, we live and we go through this life. And that's actually a really wonderful thing, and to be naked is a really wonderful thing. I think when we dress ourselves, we are dressing ourselves, you know, integrating our identity into our everyday life, you know, putting on a scarf or a shirt or whatever it is. You're saying something about the person that you are, but there's something really earthy and primal and connective about being naked and acknowledging that other human being as a person, and also exploring the body. So like Harper, you know, he'll say to me, why is my tummy so crinkly, or why do my boobs hang so low? And I say that it's age and it's having babies. That's just how they hang. Really empowering for me as a woman as well, to kind of to be able to express myself through my story of my body. This is a part of me, and I think in our culture there's a real disconnect, because we are constantly being fed these messages that you should be dissatisfied and you're not beautiful enough and you're not the right size, and you need to buy these like tummy sucking in pants, or you need to go on this diet, you need to buy to fix your body. Whereas I'm really trying to get past that and get to this point of, actually, this is my body and it is beautiful and it is my body, it is my story, and I actually don't need any of that crap that has been constructed so we, you know, we feel better about ourselves. I actually feel good about myself when I'm naked. So really, when I put clothes on, it's just it's another form of expression. In some ways your body can be a bit of a canvas, you know. when you're naked, it's a blank canvas, and you know, when you put clothes on, you're expressing parts of who you are, but it's not who you are. What you wear is not who you are, it's a part of who you are. So I guess this is a 2-in-1 kind of one. I try really hard not to use masculine or feminine frameworks for my language with the boys. Typically I really would say, and I've noticed this because Law, my best friend, has 2 girls, and we've spoken about how my language changes when I'm talking to her girls or my boys. The boys, I mainly say, hey buddy, hey mate, good on you little fella. But with the girls, I say, well done babe, that's beautiful. A lot of the time I comment on how beautiful they look, which they do always because they're scrumptious. What I've noticed is that with the girls, I always go to how beautiful they look. With the boys, I always comment on something that they're actually doing. So I think even through tiny subtle ways, we're actually framing for our children how they think they are in the world, what it means to be a boy and what it means to be a girl. So I'm really trying to switch up those frameworks. So with the boys, I'll say, that looks really lovely, or you look beautiful. And I'm trying to break down those kind of gender normative language roles, I guess, that are just a part of our culture. But I actually think it can be really, it defines a person, I suppose, and you know, maybe to some people that's a good thing because it forms really strong gender norms, but I don't want to define my children by the fact that they're boys. I think the human spectrum of emotion and experience is so much more than what boys are capable of and what girls are capable of. Part of that is that I let the boys watch all sorts of shows, which might sound a bit silly. I've spoken to a few people about this and they've all got interesting, very different opinions, so that's good to know that lots of people are thinking about it. There's definitely a lot of surprise sometimes that I'm met with when the boys are watching sort of My Little Pony or Barbie House, or what's another one? Let It Go. With popular shows, whether they be cartoons or movies, the gender roles are very strong. Harper watches cartoons like Batman or Transformers. The way in which a conflict is solved is very different. It's through battle and fighting. You know, there's always violence. And I know violence is a strong word, but there is violence. It's not behavior that we would encourage in our children. So it's sending quite mixed messages because these are the shows that they're watching, but it's also not, you know, it's not acceptable behavior. So the conflict resolution is really done through aggression and the goodie and the baddie, very kind of forward and strong and dominating. Then through the more feminine, I guess, shows, the conflict resolution is sitting down at a table with cups of tea and they identify their feelings, you know, oh, sorry buttercup, I shouldn't have done that because I was feeling, you know, sad. So there's actually a real difference in terms of how they're viewing a conflict as being resolved. I know that children don't think about it in this way, but so many things that become a part of our normal lives and the behaviors and how we interact with others is learnt through pop culture and media and mainstream kind of shows. So, you know, if you're only exposing your children to one type of show because it's a boy show, then that's really all the behaviors that they're kind of going to see and they're going to be thinking about. So I really try to give, you know, Harper real freedom, and I encourage him to watch all sorts of different shows. And I really resent, it makes me quite mad that there's very strong frameworks around girl shows and boy shows, just like there are with clothes. You know, Target, for example, boy section, girl section, boy color, girl colors, and all of these different very strong boundaries, they really shape a person and they define a person, and it could be argued that that's, you know, that's how a society is built, and if you don't have those firm gender roles then a society will collapse. But I actually disagree. That's the short answer. So the final one, I think, is this the final one? Focusing. Give your boys agency over their body. Show them that identity is more than just boy and girl. So I guess I touched a little bit on this before when I said that, you know, when you put on clothes, you're expressing a part of who you are, but it's not your whole self. It's just a part of your self-expression and, you know, autonomy as a person, your human right to be who you are. You know, we have things like human rights and self-expression. There's still parameters around that, very strong parameters. So I know that if I, you know, do certain things with the boys or let them wear certain things, there is definitely like a, what you doing to your child? So it's kind of like, be who you are, but be who you are within this box. A part of that is that, yeah, so expressing who you are is not just what you're wearing on the outside, it's actually about what's on the inside, and having that freedom of choice to express who you are on the inside, I think, is very important. So I'm really trying to embrace that with the boys and empower it. The big things that we have done is stopped cutting the boys' hair. So Hunter's obviously still too little to say, I'd like my hair cut. We keep it so it's neat and out of their face, whichever way that's done. But I think I don't really want to make that choice on their behalf anymore, because that's what I'm taught a boy should look like. I think that actually boys and men can become really isolated because there is so much external pressure from these gender normative frameworks to look a certain way. And I basically want to give some of that choice and freedom of choice back to my children, because I think if I'm so pro, you know, expression of identity and self through other forms of, you know, not just the normative gender roles, then why am I taking my child and making him cut his hair? Yes, he looks gorgeous, but again, there's this language of, you look so handsome, you know, but when a girl gets her hair done, oh, you look so beautiful, you look so lovely, and you know, there's a really different approach, and I just think it's ridiculous. Like, they're human beings and they're not defined by their hair. And Harper actually wants to grow his hair. So we have cut it recently because he was having a bit of cradle cap. So, and he was a part of that decision-making process. We said we can deal with it. If you don't want to cut your hair, that's fine, we'll deal with it. But if you think you'd be more comfortable, then let's cut it. And he was a part of that process. It wasn't us because we're bigger and because we're adults and because we know better. We weren't taking that power of choice and control away from him. We were inclusive in our discussion and conversation. So he did choose to cut it, but that was his decision, it wasn't ours. And he'll probably go back to growing his hair once the cradle cap is all sorted. And there is a very, I guess, frequent conversation that we have in this house about, you know, what he kind of thinks that if he grows it longer, he says, "Mummy, won't I look like a girl?" And I said, "No, you'll look like a beautiful boy, Harper." So we're really trying to disconnect and separate from those kind of undercurrents of attitudes, which gives him more body ownership, you know? And I think that comes into clothing as well. With the boys, you know, if they want to wear different colors, they can wear different colors. I think, you know, the whole consumerist capitalist industry and how it's thrived through these gender controlled norms, that's a whole nother video. But I think we're really sticking it to the man when when people say, no, I'm not staying within your rules and I'm not sticking within your frameworks, and just because I have a child who's got a specific genetic makeup, I'm gonna stick to those colors. Like, what ridiculousness is that? So, yeah, the boys basically have choice over their clothes as well. And I think part of having these conversations in an age-appropriate context is a really important way of empowering our boys and giving them the courage and the knowledge to be able to combat negative stigma and attitudes out in the world when they meet them, because they've been exposed to the whole spectrum of, you know, masculinity, femininity, and how a human being expresses all of those. And then further down the track, you know, I think that will really help with them being you know, strong and firm within themselves as a soul and as a human being and as a person in the world. Just because you're a man, it doesn't mean you can't cry. No, you can cry, you can talk about your feelings, you can have tea parties, you can, you know, you can wear pink, you can want to do ballet. I think it's all kind of, it's all contextual, you know, within our culture, and it's something we're really trying to break down those walls. And I think there is change out in the world. It is happening. This is something that we've been doing with the boys for a while now, and that's just kind of how we live. So yeah, I think we're just trying to break down those boundaries of what it means to be a boy or a girl in our society, and also in doing so, like I said, give the boys courage to go out into the world and challenge those notions of masculinity, femininity, and you know, gender roles and norms within our society, and also linking that to sexuality. I think you know, they're all so closely intertwined, and that's just kind of the framework that our culture has been constructed through. You know, having these conversations and giving some of that freedom and autonomy back to our little humans will help kind of break down those walls, I think, of stigma and the negative attitudes. Yes. So I think that's all for today. I hope that video made sense, and I hope you enjoy it. That's just my little 5 insights. I hope there was 5, I'm not really sure. I think I got a bit carried away. I have 5 philosophical thoughts on raising boys. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you again soon. Okay, bye.